I think you got you did pronounce it right, and I'm not even sure how to say it, so that's good. So look, thanks very much, everybody. I work in the Data61 Insight team in CSIRO, and to your point about retirement, David, is a good one. I actually, as I get older, I start to not look forward to retirement more and more, but we have a tapered retirement section in our workplace manual about they don't just get rid of old people in CSIRO, you get to come back and do mentoring duties. So I think, those sorts of tapered retirement models likely come more often. Today I want to talk to you about a whole body of work, which is, of all the stuff we've done in the field of strategic foresight in my team, this work on the future of work and jobs and what do they look like in the future has caught most attention. There is a huge amount of concern and optimism in the Australian workforce about what lies ahead. The biggest job my team has currently got is we're writing the national roadmap for artificial intelligence. So France has done theirs, we've seen Canada put one out, China, India, Germany will soon release one, United Kingdom. We're doing ours, and we've got to put our report on the desk of the federal government in December, and it's going to be about what artificial intelligence does to the nation. Plus, we're writing the ethics framework, which starts to resolve. We're dealing and thinking about some of the same sorts of issues Diane raised there at the beginning of her presentation on the ethics of robotics. So that's the big piece of work we're doing. But what happens to jobs is on everyone's lips. If I could summarise a whole lot of thinking, it's this diagram here with 3 different task types in the workforce. Blue tasks are the technical skills you have. So our kids, well, we needed to be able to read and write to get a job, to get into the door. Our children will have coding as well. They will need to be able to interact with all this high-powered artificial intelligence and machinery. That's the technical skills to do that are the blue tasks. It doesn't mean being able to use an iPad, anyone can do that. It means to be able to code, to be able to manipulate what it does. And even though, yes, artificial intelligence is already writing artificial intelligence, that isn't going to take away the need for human coding and manipulation of the machines. The green tasks, though, I think grow more substantially. This is what makes you human, your creativity, your judgment, your emotional intelligence and social reasoning, and complex reasoning. These capabilities are what will set you aside and create your career and make it go really well. The red tasks are the things that we are automating ruthlessly, relentlessly, and we actually want to automate a lot of them. A lot of these things are the boring parts of your job that you don't want to do. They're repetitive, rules-based, structured, and we have an enormous opportunity to improve safety in the workforce via the use of automation. The study that Diane mentioned, the statistics, and I can't remember them all now, but they were pretty striking in how much safety gains we see when automation is used well on a mine site, in manufacturing. It really reduces workplace problems, but increases new ones around mental health as well. So that's what's happening in the workforce. Let's get into artificial intelligence and how quickly things move, though. Why the future and the rate of change that David mentioned is happening so fast. So this is the Mojave Desert in California. It's a scene in 2004 of the first competition for automated cars. They had to drive a 220-kilometre course across the desert. All had entered. It was run by DARPA, the Defence Research Branch of the United States military. And in 2004, none of the cars made it more than 13 kilometres into this course. They were quite laughable. They hit rocks, they kind of slid off sand hills. It wasn't very convincing, and a lot looked at this and concluded it wasn't going to happen. 2005, all but one finished the course. 2006, they're getting good times. 2010, Google have put their driverless car through the Nevada state government test for humans. So it's driven through all the witches' hats and done everything a human can do. And we have level 4 automation today, and we're moving, hopefully, via machine learning to level 5. What is so exciting in this work on artificial intelligence we're doing, and why we're all waking up around the world to this, is the machine has the ability to learn without explicit guidance from the human being. So Google have a company called DeepMind that built a set of algorithms called AlphaGo, which played the Chinese game Go, which is way more complex than chess. In 2016, they beat Lee Sedol, the best human player of this game. Now, that wasn't something we would have anticipated for another 10 years in the field of artificial intelligence due to the complexity of strategy involved in playing this game. Interestingly, though, and published in the science journal Nature, in another year they built another computer program, another set of algorithms called AlphaGo Zero, which was pitted against AlphaGo and won 100 games to nil. What it did differently, it learned tabula rasa from scratch just by playing games against itself using deep neural networks and advanced machine learning. it didn't have any human guidance, and it solved the problem using strategies that we didn't think of. That's what's got us excited about artificial intelligence. That's what we're unleashing into all aspects of the economy so that we can have machines that learn and find novel solutions. It's going to transform how we do science and is really quite exciting. And the learnings are shared pretty quickly. So when Tesla encountered this on an Australian road, this is the message it fed up to the database, right? That previously, so it is then able to do an image analysis on that worldwide and work out that it is a kangaroo. It works out speed, trajectory, size. Is it okay or not to run it over? And then it can upload this to all of the Tesla vehicles worldwide, and then the system has upgraded. So there is a huge amount of machine learning that is going on. Machines are moving more into areas we didn't expect them to be. Emotion recognition. So in 2014, computers got better than people at face recognition. We'll soon start to see emotion recognition crossover. So we played around in the office with the Microsoft Azure API app for emotion detection, and this is me and my team. So we did happiness, and the thing picked it up really quickly. We did surprise. Only Hien looked surprised. Me and Wen ended up looking happy again. We actually did sadness as well. It was a bit tragic. I don't want to show you the photos, but we tried to do sadness, and we couldn't fool it. You could say that it wasn't working, or you could say it was working just fine, and it knew we weren't really sad. You know, the only way was to find someone in the office who was normal and unaware and make them sad, and then photograph them and put the photo on. Would have told us, but we didn't want to do that given the sorts of things we've just heard about workplace health and safety. So the thing is in actual fact, the emotion detection is getting really good, and this is getting used all the time already, and increasingly to make all sorts of judgments about a human being and what they're doing in good and bad ways. Case Cruncher was an interesting case. You know, the reality is a lot of the decisions made in court that impact people will be made by a robot in the near term. They already are starting to. This is from the UK Financial Ombudsman, who resolves disputes in the financial system. They pitted 100 of the best lawyers in London against a piece of artificial intelligence called Case Cruncher to predict the outcomes of disputes, cases against superannuation disputes. And Case Cruncher got an accuracy of predicting the outcome at about 87% compared to the human lawyers at 63%. But a large amount of caseload is likely to go towards these sorts of systems. This is a debate they had about it that is beginning, about how you would feel about a robotic device making a judgment, you know, about a workers' compensation claim, for example. We will move in that direction. Initially, you might be horrified at the prospect of that happening because it's got to be. But at the same time, we could have the prospect of taking a huge amount of human error out of legal decision-making. A lot of what goes wrong in legal decision-making isn't any more than human error because caseloads are so high. The computers and robotics also don't have bias that human beings have. Humans aren't great at making unbiased judgments, and we can take a lot of that out as well. There are challenges in doing this, but our ethics framework has got to deal with this question of bias in judgment because, you know, one thing, whether we like it or not, this is absolutely coming. Data, we heard, is everywhere and everything behind the workforce. So data is, you know, the term is it's a new oil. It's the head of a hospital is equally concerned about the prospect of a data breach as they are a Legionnaire's outbreak because of the consequences it has. But all organisations are becoming data-driven, and it's all around the increased efficiencies we're seeing. So up today and tomorrow is the Data61 live conference tech festival thing up in Brisbane, which I'll be going to tonight. A colleague of mine who will be showing his drone, called HoverMap, which can map a building in a few minutes. You know, this is a really quite transformational technology that takes a lot of work out of the picture, does it a lot safer, and is a huge gain in efficiency. As, for example, the 2,400 sensors Data61 put on Sydney Harbour Bridge can work out where a crack in the steelwork is going to happen before it happens, and then we can get a maintenance crew out to fix the crack before it occurs, which is a much more efficient way of looking after our infrastructure assets. Another big efficiency gain comes from vehicle automation, and you know, the project of ours we're doing with the Queensland government is looking at the future of transportation systems, and the safety opportunities around vehicle automation are huge, and the efficiency gains are really big as well. So this analysis was showing how highway capacity can be boosted up to 3.7 times, that's vehicles per hour per lane, where there is harmonisation between the vehicles. So when they're sharing information and working together, we can vastly increase the number of vehicles on the Australian roads. An aspect of all of this is the changing nature of how we work. The gig economy was mentioned by Diane. I think that we see a fundamental change in the rules of economics. Ronald Coase won the Nobel Prize for his work on the theory of the firm, about why firms got large and big and dominated economic activity last century, and that's how we organised labour. This century, we're seeing platform economics rise. We're seeing freelancer, Upwork, Airtasker is another example, which have taken away some of the fundamental tenets of Ronald Coase's theorem. They were transaction costs, the ability for me to transact with someone in another country or to get a mini task performed, to get someone to clear the leaves out of the gutter, for example. That can be done at much lower cost than used to be possible because of the platform-based models. Asymmetries of information are also changing. So TripAdvisor, for example, is used by people to make hotel reservations. It gets into the rooms of all the hotels and it takes away the ability of the hotel chain to manage the information the way it used to be able to do it. So asymmetries of information and transaction costs from Ronald Coase's theories are disappearing. And we're seeing new business models emerge that have been incredibly successful. The growth in the world's biggest company is all technology driven. If we go back 10 years into the past, there were the top 5 companies in the world didn't have any of the tech companies. Today it is Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet. Facebook is probably dropped a bit with its share price going down a little, but is still a huge company. The growth has all been in the tech sector, and these tech sector companies have incredible investment in R&D, which is building powerful gadgetry that comes into play in the Australian marketplace and changes how things operate. So Amazon spends $30.1 billion on R&D last year, Australian. Australia's entire public and private expenditure is $34 billion. Right, so that's to give you an idea of the sorts of capabilities that are being developed. Alphabet would be, which is Google, would be similar. Microsoft, again, similar levels of investment. And it's building tools like Alexa, right, which we can have natural language processing, natural language conversations with. So natural language processing is a field of artificial intelligence where there's been huge breakthroughs. The bulk of your interaction with a computer by early 2020s will be spoken, not via typing. It's a cumbersome and slow way of interacting with a computing device. We will be speaking to our computers, but we'll be speaking to products like Alexa or Google's alternative one, via a natural language conversation, and it will work out what groceries we want to buy. Additionally to the world of platform economics is blockchain, which is also called distributed ledger technology. This is something else we're looking into. We did a study on it, in fact, March last year for the Australian Treasury, which we are now looking at again already. In only a year, so much has changed. There's been a huge amount of investment into the space of blockchain. Cryptocurrency prices soared and then they crashed right down again. But the algorithms behind those cryptocurrency prices didn't cease to work. They continued to allow us to transfer trust and value without an intermediary. That's the main thing that we've seen via blockchain is, if I was back in the 1980s trying to convince you the internet was going to be big, I want to try and convince you this is important because we aren't just sending information to each other, we're sending value without an intermediary involved. When I send you Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum, there is no individual involved in mediating that process. This can apply to contracts of all sorts. This can have an effect on workplace health and safety and how it's done. Let's get into this issue then of task automation, which features so heavily. This was Michael Osborne came out to Brisbane. I met him and he did the first study. He's from the University of Oxford. They looked at 702 unique job types in America and they found that 47% were going to get automated, done by a robot more efficiently. And that kicked off a set of similar studies around the world which kept on coming back with pretty similar answers. Is it going to happen? Well, this is your cause for optimism, and this is poor Brett, the Berkeley robot for the elimination of tedious tasks, right? His job was to fold a towel. Now, they worked on Brett for 7 years, and after 7 years of the UC Berkeley got good engineers, 7 years effort, the best time they got was 20 minutes, which we know every human can beat, other than a teenager, of course, who walks over the top of the towel and see that. That's because of the irregularity of this, and it's called Moravec's paradox in artificial intelligence. We can build AI that will beat you at playing world-class chess or Go, or driving a car or flying a plane, things that you would find quite hard, but we will not, over the coming decades, build a piece of AI that can tie your shoelaces up. It's beyond the reach of the robotics because of the complexity of the tasks. Probably the key point of this slide here is is this one, the bifurcation of labour markets. And we can see here 2 job types in the photography industry, but we did this analysis on all different industry sectors. It just came out really clearly here. The red line is the red jobs, the down arrow tasks that I showed at the beginning. They are the laboratory people who create the print film in the laboratory. Highly rules-based, repetitive, highly amenable to automation. They've almost disappeared. Field photographers, on the other hand, a different sort of set of challenges. They have to have creativity, judgment. A wedding photographer needs a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to do their job, probably the most important thing they have. It's a very human job, and they are pushed by technology. So learn to race with the machine, not against it, is what MIT professors Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee say here. Make your skills all plugged into this powerful machinery and it goes well. My brother-in-law is a photographer who does construction site and real estate photography, and he has a drone which can, at Straddie, it can fly down to the beach, have a look at the surf and fly back with object avoidance and detection. His job is not threatened in any way by that drone. It is boosted by the drone because he becomes more useful. He can cover more of the hotel and get better shots than he could otherwise if he can work that technology with all the software that goes with it. So that's the kind of line that we want to be on, and it probably is an improvement in safety, mental and physical, if done well over that green line. So this is the shift that will happen in a much bigger way right across the workforce. Different locations we can do our work. The Haptic workbench is something that CSIRO is developing that allows a surgeon to perform surgery remotely. A lot of, that's the Microsoft HoloLens with dad showing daughter how to fix the plumbing via an augmented reality system. There's a whole research effort in using these kinds of technologies happening in CSIRO. We see a lot of Australians entering flexible workplace arrangements to work from home. Still, unfortunately, a lot of us still get stuck in this to do knowledge-based jobs, which, it's why it hasn't changed in a bigger way when actually commuting is one of the biggest sources of stress for Australians in our cities. Hasn't changed yet. Massive jobs growth in new areas too. So some of the technical skills are under huge demand. Data scientists, for example, have boomed. If you have these sorts of skills or you're skilled in cybersecurity, there's been really strong growth. We need a new cybersecurity workforce to handle the cyber-physical system risks, where this was a FBI warning after a Jeep Cherokee was successfully run off a highway in the United States via the cyber attack research team actually managed to control the vehicle sufficiently to run it off the highway. We're in a world of new risk, which we need a new workforce to manage, plus a new world of online manipulation. That's James Comey testifying. I think the whole set of amazing events took place around here where digital technologies were used en masse to manipulate and influence in a way we hadn't seen before. That, again, the same sorts of technologies the baddies are using, the goodies are going to have to use too. Almost done, Virginia. So lastly, question is, everything automatable. Baristas should have got automated, according to our models. It is a rules-based, repetitive, you would think, a red line job, but they're still around. Why is it the barista queue is longer, and is it just that you're getting caffeine when you get a coffee? The chances are there is more going on. Is their ambience? Do they smile at you, talk to you? Do they make you feel alive in the morning? That is the full package of goods that you're getting, and this is the sort of human factor that gets more important. This is why the world of 2038 probably still does have baristas, is that we are seeing quite a lot more. Physical world continues to be a draw card for people. Let me end with the techlash phenomena is happening. When me and George on my team were in Sydney, we were looking for a cafe to get an email off to a client. We had to get a report through to them. We jumped into this cafe and said, Sydney cafe, right, got to have Wi-Fi. Found this sign. I would ask, is this cafe well geared for the digital revolution? Have they actually got the right digital strategy here? Because they've gone in a different direction. Thank you very much for your time.